Hello guys, it's Modest Major here, bringing you some commentary over some Halo 5 gameplay. The topic of discussion does not concern Halo 5 whatsoever, as today I wanted to talk about Halo 3 Anniversary and basically give my thoughts on whether or not it's a good idea, a valuable idea to the community, and in conjunction with the idea that Halo 3 was on the Master Chief Collection and how that has an impact on its potential growth, and or will it hinder it, or does it mean that it shouldn't happen altogether? This is one of the topics where I see a huge amount of mixed feedback, and people seem to have their own ideas, and it's not all too surprising given the history of the Anniversary games that we've received. You know, we get Combat Evolved Anniversary, which basically was used on the Halo Reach engine. Halo Reach being a very dissimilar game. You know, the only similarity that I can come up with that's like makes those two games at all like reasonably similar in comparison to other Halo titles is the use of health packs. But other than that, there isn't really something that makes those games super similar to one another. You know, Combat Evolved, you've got the pistol starter. Halo Reach, you've got the DMR. The maps, the art style, everything is a lot more different. I mean, I guess you could say maybe they both have gritty art styles, but you know, if I was a Combat Evolved super fan, I wouldn't have been happy that Halo Combat Evolved was made on the Halo Reach engine. In fact, at the time, I remember being a little bit peeved, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Combat Evolved at the time. You know, I still enjoyed the game, and I still wanted to actually give it a try with updated multiplayer and updated Xbox Live settings and stuff like that. You know, we didn't have that back in Combat Evolved. It was all about LAN, so the idea of playing it was quite exciting and reliving those memories, and we didn't really get a authentic opportunity to do that. And then with Halo 2 Anniversary, whilst it was a little bit more of an improvement in terms of gameplay, as they at least made its own engine for it, there were definite criticisms to be made in terms of it being a very similar engine to Halo 4 instead of being a similar engine to Halo 2. You know, realistically, as much as I don't actually enjoy stuff like BXR and button combos, they've never been my scene per se. I've made a video about that in the past, so I don't want to go into it. I know some people will be triggered by me saying that, but they weren't my favorite things to use in the past, especially BXR. But nonetheless, like, I personally would have liked to see it in the game just to give the fans the experience that they got originally, and only really tune up stuff like connections. You know, this isn't Anniversary, this isn't Halo 2.5, this isn't Halo 2 Reimagined, this is Halo 2 Remastered. You know, this is the Anniversary edition of it, and as such, it should be celebrating it, it should be taking all the good things, and some of the bad things, you know, about the game, if you think they're bad things. It doesn't really matter. It's supposed to celebrate that game, not celebrate Halo 4. And in a lot of ways, it was celebrating a lot of the mechanics that Halo 4 had brought forward, some of which that I disagree with their inclusion altogether, like, you know, stuff like the auto-aim being easier to handle. It just didn't really make much sense. So when you see something like Halo 3 Anniversary, there's obviously going to be a lot of trepidation, because really what those previous anniversaries have done, and including Master Chief Collection, where we got the 1080 up-resed version of it, with the 60 FPS, sorry. You know, what really happened was that those games managed to put the final nail in the coffin for our memories, instead of, you know, give us one last good send-off. You know, it was a little bit unfortunate, especially the MCC. You know, a lot of the games that we really enjoyed, Halo 2 especially, I would say, due to it having Halo 2 Classic, Remastered, and Halo 2 Anniversary, it kind of just made us all sick of the idea, because we had been teased and toyed with so much that it was like, oh god, I don't even want to think about this anymore. You know, like, you're just pulling up my nostalgia strings, but you're not actually delivering you know, what we wanted. So when it comes to Halo 3 Anniversary, I do understand all the wariness and the hesitation that comes with, oh god, like, do we really want this? Do we want to put the final nail in the coffin for Halo 3? Especially when we got at least a little piece of the action in the Master Chief Collection. But one thing I want to say about Halo 3, like, I do actually think that Halo 3 is the game that most fans would want a remaster of. And I know a lot of people are very excited for the idea of Halo 2, for the idea of reviving classic gameplay. But I think the thing with Halo 3 is it managed to bridge a gap between the newer generation of shooters and the older generation. I think there was a lot of Halo 1, 2 players that carried on to Halo 3, and I think there was a lot of Halo Reach and 4 players who had played 3, but I don't think there's a lot of Halo Reach 4 players who have played 2 and 1, and I don't think there's a ridiculous amount of 2 and 1 players that have carried on with Halo Reach and Halo 4. A lot of them dropped off. So Halo 3 was kind of like the converging point. It was like the final game which like everyone kind of got a taste of, and a lot of people did enjoy. Nevertheless, I do want to, put aside some bias and say that there are actually quite a few Halo 4, Halo Reach gamers that I have talked to within the community who have actually said that they believe that the Halo 3 aiming isn't that fun. They prefer the hit scan that came along with Halo 4 and Halo Reach, and they don't really like going back to Halo 3. They feel like the aiming is just too jarring to go back to. And it's with situations like that where you get this crossroads of like, when 343 come back to remastering it, they're going to see stuff like that. They're going to see stuff like hit scan, and I can honestly see 343 coming to it and saying, oh well, the modern gamers, we've looked at the market research, and there's absolutely no way that these guys are going to want a projectile weapon system, and I want to change that for the better. Because 343, if there's one thing I would say about them, that sometimes comes to their own damage. I like it sometimes. This trait I want to talk about is like their kind of stubbornness, their pride in their gameplay mechanics, and sometimes it's a great thing. A lot of the mechanics that go into Halo 5, although a lot of people criticize some elements of it, in some ways I'm actually really happy they stuck to their own vision and they said, you know what, we want to make Halo 5 the way we want to make it. We want to put these gameplay mechanics together, and whether or not you enjoyed these more or less than a Halo experience, I actually do think there's something that works there, and there is mechanics that flow and they combine together in a really meaningful and impactful way, and I actually enjoy that. My problems with Halo 5 don't stem from the gameplay mechanics at all. Like, no way, Jose. I think they're actually pretty darn well made. Whether or not it's like a Halo successor, it's still a really good game in its own right, for sure. But at the end of the day, when it comes to going back to an old classic, is when I think that the stubbornness can come into play in a sort of negative light, where it's like, oh gosh, like they just won't let certain things rest. They have to like put their own mark on it, and they have to kind of twist and turn things. And I don't know if that's like a Microsoft thing, saying, we want gamers to have an easier time. We don't want gamers to have to struggle with coming into terms with the mechanics of the game. But the problem is, in the build-up to a release of a Halo anniversary, if all you're hearing in the headlines is how much they've changed X mechanic and how much they've changed Y mechanic, a lot of the people who are going to be the first people on board, the Halo 3 diehards, the people who played that so much in their heyday, are going to be coming out onto forums, they're going to be coming out onto Twitter, and they're going to be saying, guys, don't play this garbage. They are not making it the same as the older games. They're not living up to the successes of the older games. They're changing it for the worse in their eyes, and they are a very vocal proportion of the community. I don't actually even think they're the biggest proportion of the community, those people who shout the loudest and say the most things, but the thing is, they definitely make an impact. They definitely put people off the game, and they definitely get people worried about their purchases. And I don't think it's a good idea to just be turning all those people off. For me, I honestly think you should just be looking at the remake from a connectivity standpoint and thinking how you can improve it from that point of view, and making the hit detection and stuff like that good. So my personal answer for like, is Halo 3 Anniversary a good idea, kind of stems from the idea of, will 343 be willing to take a step back and let the game, breathe and live how it did originally? Because it's been proven that people will go back to Halo 3. I mean, on the Master Chief Collection, I believe Halo 3 was pretty much the highest population numbers, maybe unincluding Halo 2 Anniversary. If not, they were close. But there were a lot of people dedicated to playing Halo 3. And let's be honest, the Halo 3 on the Master Chief Collection was not the most optimal way to play that game. I still don't believe that we've been given, the perfect way of playing Halo 3. And another thing with Halo 3 is I honestly find Halo 3's art style to be one of the more compelling out there. And I don't think the visuals look that dated as a result of the textures and the way in which they created the levels, the architectures and stuff like that. They look so good that they kind of hold up. If I go back to Guardian, I still kind of have a little bit of wonderment to like, wow, this actually looks pretty darn incredible, especially as it's like however many years old. I don't want to take a guess because I'm always wrong with years, but you know what I mean. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I really do want a Halo 3 remastered. I think it could potentially be good for the community, and it could kind of help both sides of the community see eye to eye when it comes to older Halo and newer Halo, because again, I do think Halo 3 was quite decent at bridging the gap between those two things, especially if they add in stuff like the community options that they had in the original Halo 3. I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest things. You know, I'm talking all this talk about gameplay and stuff like that, but what it really comes down to in the end is stuff like the social features and stuff like the Infection and the Griffball and the Forge, and just overall building that sense of community, because again, that is something you couldn't receive with the Master Chief Collection, and such an integral part of the game. You know, that's what most people remember Halo 3 for. My fondest memories of Halo 3 are from Infection, and from my earliest times with the games. It's not actually from tryharding. I didn't enjoy tryharding until Halo 4, believe it or not. My fondest memories were Halo 3 custom games, joining someone randomly on my friends list, and just getting, you know, this party started, baby, let's go. No, I'm just kind of talking out my arse now. But, essentially, I do think that there is untapped ground, but I think that 343 would have to be very considerate of the community's wishes, and I think, honestly, the best way of doing it is playing it very safe for both sides of the party. I don't know why it should be necessary to put your own stamp on something when really you're giving something to the community. It's a gift to the community. You shouldn't be like, oh no, let me take the gift back and do something to it because I want to add this and I think it would be really cool. Like, no, the gift's there. You just need to package it with a nice, neat bow and a very pretty gift wrapping and stuff like that, and the right amount of features, and we're good to go. You know, we're not asking for you to make miracles. Save that for Halo 6. We're totally fine. Well, we should be totally fine as a community with them taking the risks and them taking, you know, the right decisions on their own mind and their own critical thought process for a new sequel. I get that, but with Halo 3 Remastered, I just wish they would take a step back and say, you know, we'll leave this in the hands of the community, we'll leave the old game and we'll see what happens. And if it goes wrong, it goes wrong, but it's not going to sell nothing. It's friggin' Halo 3. If it looks pretty and it's Halo 3, it's going to sell well, it's going to do well, and if you release it on PC, you could get a whole new audience, and it could be really exciting to see those communities merge together. Anyway, I've been Modest Major. Hope you guys enjoyed this commentary somewhat. Thanks for watching. Peace out.